Hey guys, what's up? How's how's everybody doing? Um, so I've been gone for a while and I could hear stuff playing in my ear, so let me close it down. All right, there we go. I've been gone for a little while and I'm back and I'm gonna be sharing some stuff with you today. It's gonna be me getting back into the groove of things. I'm not feeling 100%, but hope you guys will join me as I show you how I colored Arthur Adams' Fantastic Four. Let's start the show. It's not starting the show. There we go. Now it started. All right, guys. My name is Victor Medina. I'm a comic book artist and colorist, and I've been doing this for a little while, and I've been taking you guys on my journey as I try to break in to the comic book industry. It's been difficult, needless to say, with so many different things going on, whether it's pandemic and now other things. But with this show, I try to keep everything light. I try to teach, try to make things fun. That's what it's all about. Sorry about the glasses, guys, and the glare. But I'm just gonna jump in. This was super late. It's feeling good, so I was like, let me do a show. Um, so what I'm gonna go through, I'm gonna show you how I did the Fantastic Four colors. Again, I apologize for being rusty. I haven't done this in weeks and it's feeling great. So I was like, let me do a show for you guys. So let's hop over. All right. Make sure you guys like and subscribe for me wherever you're watching this. If nobody's watching this, cool, because it was super short notice. Um, I'm just gonna check something real quick. I apologize for. Oop, there you go. I'm live over there, apparently. Okay, just making sure things work. Again, I had forgotten anything works. Okay, so some of you may have seen, let's see here. Some of you may have seen this image that I colored recently. This is Arthur Adams, Fantastic Four 348, the new Fantastic Four, and I colored it because it was one of my favorite covers. But I'm gonna show you guys because I really like this came out. Um, I'm gonna go through my things first, just so you guys know. First up, I'm gonna show you how I did things. Let me just jump into it. Okay, let me turn all this off. This is what you start with, right? So first thing we're gonna get into is your tools and how to set everything up. Okay. Um, I'm gonna show you first things first, my tools, what I use. First thing I'm gonna show you is my brushes. Now, for those of you who are always asking what kind of brush you use and you know how do you use it, things like that. This is my brush. So make it really big. I use a super soft brush. I never use anything outside of this. I use a super soft brush. That's my brush. That's what it looks like. I have this brush and I have it set to two settings. I have one set to normal and one set to hard light. So as you can see, this is what it looks like. It's super soft, has a nice grade out, fade out, whatever you want to call it. Um, when I'm using this, let me show you here. When I use this, so when I color, I only color with the edges, with these here. This, here, and here. Okay? That is all I use. I do not, I try not to use the center because it's too hard, right? I want to get that nice fade from inside out. So you see me as I'm coloring, um, I'm only hitting with the edges of this brush. Okay. The other brush I use is a very hard brush. Oops, that's not it. It is this one. This hard brush. This is the only other one I use. Don't use anything else. Give me 1 second here, guys. I'm going to switch back over. I have to check something real quick. Oops. Again. First time back. So many bugs. Let me see here. Okay. I just had to make sure that was working. All right, let's go back over here to this screen. Subscribe. So yeah, so this is the other brush I use. It is a hard brush. And you'll see me use this one on things when I want certain shines to certain things, because like if you ever look at my old drawings, you'll see like blood and things like that, and they'll have like these little shines in them like this. And that's how I do it with this, is I'll make the blood look bloodier or the metal look shinier, or an eyeball. If you're you're coloring an eyeball, it'll look like that. Okay, so that's my 3 brushes. 1 hard brush, 2 soft brushes, 1 of them set to normal, and 1 of them set to hard light. Okay. Now my other thing I use is lassos. I have so many lassos. Okay, so you see in the corner over here, these are my lasso presets. I have a 0 pixel for flatting, which is the anti-alias is off, right? So that way when I flat and I drop a color in there, oops, let me get black, oops, let's delete that and get another one. You get that nice hard edge that you need when you're doing flats, right? My other lassos are a 0 pixel with the anti-alias on, so it gets a little bit of more of a fade, so you can see those edges. Oh, just as sharp, I guess. Not quite, but it's close. And then I'll have a 1 pixel, 2 pixel, 5, 10, 25, 50. I have all of those. I mostly use when I'm coloring is 0 through 5. It depends on what I'm coloring and what I want to get. Okay. So if I'm coloring something, I'm going to show you guys, right? So when I'm coloring something, when I said I only hit things with the edge of my brush. So this is my selection here. So when I'm coloring something, I only hit the edge with my brush, right? That's it. That's all I do. It's hit the edge of the brush, right? That's all I want to do. Now, so you get that nice fade. That's how I make my cuts with my lassos. And I'll dive into like my other settings here in a little bit. And now, last but definitely not least, layers. How do you set up your layers? You could set them up however you want. Now I'm going to show you how I do it. Okay. See over here, these are my layers and they're color coded. So I already have inks right here, which is my grays. And the reason I color code them, it's easier for me to see. Sometimes my eyes aren't working that great, but I could see the colors, right? So here's the inks. Here's the Arthur Adams inks, right? This is what we're starting with. Then we'll go to colors. Let's click this one on. Let's get those off. So this is how I start. So I select each character and I have them in their own layer. So in this one layer, I have Hulk, I have Spider-Man, I have Wolverine, and Ghost Rider. and Mole Man. And don't worry about the upper ones. I have all those selected out. So if there's any effects that I want to do, either over or under those characters, I could just select that whole character and not have to deal with anything later on, right? Because I have it all selected. I don't have to go selecting his shirt, his arm, his teeth, his eyes. I don't have to do any of that, right? So there. Hey, Michael, what is up, man? How's it going? Yeah, I jumped on, feeling good. So just showing how I did some colors. Um, okay, so I selected all those characters. All right, I have them in their own layer. Next up is I have my flats. All right, so this is where I put each individual colors characters on them. And what I do when I color is when I have my flats, whether somebody gives me flats or I flatten myself, I will change the flats or just do them as their primary colors. So that's Wolverine's red. I mean, sorry, that's Spider-Man's red. That's his blue for his suit. That's what I'm going to be using, right? Same with Wolverine. You'll see that I do change things as I'm coloring, but to begin with, this was my initial idea of how I wanted to color them, right? So Ghost Rider's bike was blue. You know, I wanted Hulk with a green shirt and gray pants. So on, right? My next layer that I put on top of that will be my shadow layer. Now, what do I do with my shadow layer and how do I pick them? It depends on the environment. There are so many colorists, and I'm not saying they're doing it wrong, it's their style, but sometimes they don't let the atmosphere affect the character. So if they're in a very dark area where, you know, it's maybe some blues because you want to give that nighttime effect, and the character just looks like it's walking around during the day, um, that sometimes can take you out of the comic. Excuse me one second. It's warm up here. And so what I do is I set my shadows. And how I set up my shadows is kind of weird. Um, I've seen people try to do it after I show it to them and they don't get it because it takes a lot of practice. It's just like drawing. Everybody's process is different. Same as coloring. Like no two colorists colors the same. Um, what I do, let me show you real quick. So when I do my shadow layers, I'm gonna go in and grab, let's say, I'm gonna grab all my characters for this piece. They're all selected. And on a new layer, I'm gonna grab the purple that I want to use, right? And there's my shadow layer, right? But I want some of their color peeking through because it's not a super dark piece, right? If this was a nighttime piece, I might just leave them like this and then start coloring on top. But I just want a tiny peak of color coming through. So I lower the opacity on my layer to about 90%. So you only get a tiny peak of color, right? Okay. So my shadow layer's set. All right, I'm going to show you real quick the final colors. All right, these were the final colors because I'm just going through my layers. These were them. But on top of the colors, I have a layer. I have my lights layer, highlights, and I have that set in with a layer mask on top of that. So that way, let me show you. If I hit Control I, it'll flip it. So that's my highlight layer, right? And why do I do this? Is because I can add the highlights that I want, only using black and white. So if I grab white, I'm gonna grab white here, and then I just come in and oops, there we go. See, I can add that highlight on top, right? The great thing about that doing this is it doesn't affect your drawings. So let's say somebody doesn't like your highlight or they don't like the yellow highlight, they want it blue, they want it whatever. You can just go in and change the color of the highlight, and it you don't have to go in and change the colors of the characters. Hey, Pops, how's it going? How are you doing? Okay, so the next layer I'm going to show you is my lights. So this is what where I put like the glow of Ghost Rider's um fire, a little bit of glow on Wolverine's. Oh, I didn't put anything on this class. So, hey Jim, how's it going? Thank you. Yeah, feeling better. Thought I'd jump on. Um, so I put the glow. Another thing I'm gonna show you that I do because I do this, so I've been getting a lot more work where I have to do sequentials or I have to do different covers, and I'm trying to keep the colors consistent with the characters. I'll do a layer that I just put colors used. I don't know if you can see these little colors coming off and on. These colors right here are the ones I used on the characters as I was coloring it. So this like blue right here I used as a little under bounce light color to lighten up the shadows just a little bit, just so they're not so flat. Here's Hulk's color. Ghost Rider didn't really do anything. It's fire, orange and reds. Wolverine's jacket, things like that. Here I had Mole Man's, the color I used, his shadows. All of that I put right there, and I put it in a separate layer, so that way I can go and grab it, all those colors, and I just move them to another page, and then I have my, oops, sorry if that was loud. I banged my microphone. So that way I could just move them to the another page and start working with them. Okay, let me, so this is the process of coloring the Fantastic Four. I'm going to start this. I'm just going to let it play. And I'm going to explain to you what I was doing as I was coloring. So, when you're coloring a piece like this, especially when it's somebody like Arthur Adams, even though you're doing it for fun, you're doing it for practice, there's a certain amount of pressure because you want it to look good. Because Arthur Adams is a legend. He is amazing. And I've always admired this cover, and I wanted to do it justice. So I wanted to make sure that Mole Man looked different from everybody else. So I did their shadows in purples, and then I did his in blue. And I wanted to make him look like he was underground still and peeking out. You know, the sun is coming in through a hole in the ground or something, and he's peeking out into it. That's the look I wanted to go for, but I wanted to keep him very cool, except for that section around his mouth. I mean, center of his face. It jumped because I forgot to hit record again when I started coloring. But what I did with him is I kept things very cool around his face. And what I mean is, let me bring back this, and I'm going to zoom in on his face. Now I'm going to click off my lights here. All right, let's click off the lights here. So I kept his face very cool. I've been starting a lot. Please bear with me. So I kept his face very cool, except for that one area. So it looks like he's peeking out. Now, the tricky part with Mole Man is if somebody typically lived underground, they're going to be probably very white. But going through other source material of Mole Man, you know, when I did my homework of what he looks like, everybody does him very warm colors. And I thought, you know, he lives underground. He should, you know, be very pale. But that's not how people have been doing them, so I stayed with the look he has in the comics. So I give him a little warmth in his nose, like you normally have, you and I have. You know, I might have a little bit more because my face is burnt, but keeping that coolness around his face, and you'll see here, I did these little blue highlights just to give him some definition, but he still looks cool. You could tell he's still in the shadows, right? He's in a dark place. But I also wanted to do a cool lighting effect, so I hit him with some red underneath his mouth, along his cheeks, as if there was a red light source, maybe like he's so far underground that there's lava or whatever where he's at. So it's bouncing up off his face. It just gives him a cool look, kind of gives him a creepier look as well, which is something I love to do. And if I click my light source back on, you could see I kept that warmth from underneath, but also gave him a warm orange around his face. So it looks like there's a sunlight hitting him. Um, it sounds like a lot, but it really isn't. It's once you get a hang of it. Oh, Isaiah, hey, upcoming comic series. No, this is an old comic that I wanted to color because I've always been a fan of his art, and this is one of my favorite covers he did of all the cool artwork he did. But this is one of my favorites of his. All right, so now I moved on to Wolverine coloring him again. This is time lapse. You know, this one took longer than I normally do, but I'm going into Wolverine now. You'll see on Wolverine's face right here, I have his base color already started, and you'll notice when I do Wolverine, I'm gonna give him a little gray around his beard. I've been stuttering a lot. Around his beard area, because I wanted to keep that grungy look, even though they didn't add any of the stubble or whatever. You know, looking at the image, he's so small on the page, you can't add all that detail, otherwise it gets cluttered. So I wanted to bring that out using color. So you'll notice after I'm done doing his highlights, and you'll see me using highlight on his jaw, I'm gonna go in with some gray and a little bit of um, the same base tone I was using to color his face. I'm just gonna desaturate it a little bit of gray. You can see right here. Okay, that's the grays, right? Now I just brought some warmth out around his skin. You'll see like he has this warmth right here. His nose, because that's where you're usually typically red. Now, this is great for characters who have warm faces. You do not want to do this if you're coloring somebody who's like, has ice power or is constantly cold or just has no any color to their skin really. Like Joker tends to be very pale. You can do it a little bit to him, but don't overdo it because now Joker's gonna look sick, right? Same thing with these characters. If I went really red, Wolverine has a cold. So that's just something to keep in mind when you're doing this. And you'll see I'm hitting only certain areas of the face. I'm gonna start with the nose typically because that's where you would get the most light. Um, you'll see that I hit his nose here, and then his little zones, his cheeks, above his brow. I hit those the most, and then fade them out, right? So that way, it's not too harsh. It's not too harsh of a cut. Kind of keeps it soft. But again, the artwork, he is. Let me show you. He's not very big on the page. In the grand scheme of this whole cover, he's not huge. So all those little details, you're not going to be able to see them unless you're buying the comic digitally. Like, unless you're going to zoom in like this, right? And you can see all those details. Which is why, like, if you're looking at it, it's kind of a mess. I'll be honest, it's a mess. If I click off the inks, this is what it looks like. This is what it looks like without the inks, and you'll see there's just cuts and shapes and everywhere. But you'll see some have harder edges than other, and then some of them have a nice little fade to it. That's all kind of tricking your eyes. So when you see it like this, it looks like all that detail. If you have a hey Patrick, yeah man, oh I'm gonna give me a little while to contact you. I was gonna contact you. I'm getting back at things, and I'll be hitting you up very soon. Yeah. Um. Yes. So it's small. So if a character was a lot closer to the camera, um, you wouldn't you would do smoother cuts, because you don't want blocky messes everywhere. So that's that. That's that's that. Again, my brain's still not working 100%. So if I'm not making sense, ask me and I'll show you. Oh, let me give you a tip. I just remembered. So something I see guys forgetting when when they're coloring is body parts, muscles, clothes, whatever it is, has different shapes. Things aren't flat. By that, what I mean is if I'm going to be coloring the Hulk here, right? I got to remember that all these muscles have these different shapes, right? So this muscle is a different shape. And then you got these little veins that are different shapes, right? This fingers come like this and they curl in. Everything has all these different shapes. And you got to keep that in mind when you're coloring. It's the same thing as when you're coloring clothes. Um, all these wrinkles are different shapes, right? This wrinkle here, you can see on your own clothes, you know, the smile, his brow, his forehead, you know, it all has those different shapes. Oops, that's deleting it to him. Something to keep in mind when you're coloring. Because if you don't and you just start coloring, you can make the characters look flat, right? And that is not what you want. You do not want that. So like here, when I'm coloring Wolverine, right? I'm hitting the bottom of his chin because where his lip goes in, his chin's gonna come out, right? So that's why I'm hitting it with light right there. Uh, you'll see I'm constantly changing my brush size, so I'm getting that nice, very like that different gradient to it. Um, Again, when they're this small, I'm not as concerned with it. I'll show you um, at the end of this. I'll show you the Hulk Punisher that I did and how that one, since the characters are bigger, um, I had to keep things a little bit softer because if I was to put a lot harder cuts, it just wouldn't look as good. Again, I went in with those grays on his chin and above his lip to give him like he has like stubble. He has always has like a 5 o'clock shadow. Um, but the cuts that I gave him, I did these very deliberate cuts as if this way his hair would grow on his face, right? That's another great trick. You may have missed that. Um, I learned this from Nia Rufino. So when you're coloring somebody and you want to warm them up a little, make yourself a screen layer, um, and then just get a nice orange, nice warm orange, and just put it over the face ever so slightly. Gives them this nice glow, this nice warmth. It's a great trick to use on female characters because it gives them this nice smooth warmth. And if there's time, I'll show you how I did that. Um, there, right there. There is my bounce shadow color that I'm going to be using throughout the drawing. I put it off to the side so that way I don't have to choose a new color later. I put it there. Let me adjust my pillows here, guys. They're holding me up right now. um, yeah. So you'll see I'm using the bounce color right there. It was really quick. Um, yeah, it was really cool. Let me see. Let me skip ahead here because I'm just coloring his claws. And you'll notice I did his jacket blue in the beginning. I was coloring it, and the blue of his hair and the blue of his jacket, I wasn't feeling it. So I went on to Ghost Rider because I needed to step away from Wolverine. Also, I neglected to mention this. All this coloring, all this coloring is done in hard light. Okay? I use a soft brush, and that soft brush is set to hard light. Okay, so that way, all I have to do is pick my base color, lighten that base color, and then I go from there. Because when you're on hard light, it keeps lightening and lightening and lightening, which each pass. So that's how I get those nice colors. So when I'm coloring Ghost Rider here, all I'm using is a very warm orange, a obviously a red, um, and one's kind of light yellow. And with the hard light tool, I just keep doing passes and passes and passes till it starts building up. So like doing his face right there, it's one color. But set to hard light, the more I pass, the more um, it lightens. And I love it. And it is my favorite way to color. I just make a couple of cuts and I'm on my way. Right here, I did a couple of holds so that way the fire looked like it was going. This is where I changed Wolverine's jacket. All right. Um, that's a blue wasn't working for me because it blended into his hair. So I was like, well, Wolverine looks cool with a brown jacket. So give him that brown X-Men, the movie brown jacket. I was gonna give him those little lines on it, but I didn't want to add anything to the art, the already classic art. And you'll see right here, as I'm doing these passes, that's all hard light. It's one color. I do a pass, do another pass, and it just keeps lightening. And you'll see my brush size getting bigger and smaller, bigger and smaller. It's because I'm doing those cuts. I'm doing those passes. Over and over. So as you'll see here, let's see here if I could go back a little bit. So I make those cuts. Boom, right there. You can see my brush size, and you can see that I'm just hitting it with the edge, and I just keep going there, building and building and building. This is something a lot of guys don't do. A lot of guys will just pick their colors. The reason I do this is I'm awful at picking colors. This kind of takes it out of my hands and it just does it for me, right? I don't have to sit there thinking like, what would be that lighter brown for his jacket, right? I just have to pick one color and it's pretty much doing it for me. All I got to do is make my cuts and I'm good to go. Woo! Not gonna lie, getting a little winded talking so much. I haven't talked this much in a while. Um, right here, I'm doing that light that I talked about earlier, where um I had set I set a layer to a light color, and then I just used a layer mask on top of it, and then I put my highlights. All right, let me skip ahead to the Hulk. Now, when I did the Hulk, I think I did him 3 times. Hated it. Hated the way he was looking. Oh, there I am going between my choosing my highlights that I'm gonna use on a mask because I just put it along the side of his face. Right here. There we go. Right along here. Side of his face. Now I hated the Hulk's face. Um I wasn't getting it. So I did it several times. I think some of them aren't I didn't record or I didn't leave or I erased. But I was struggling with the Hulk's face. It's really hard when they don't really have much color to them. So the Hulk, especially Gray Hulk, Tombstone is another one. Um, when there's really no warmth, it's just like this cool gray. It's tough. I'm not gonna lie, that is tough. Um, so there he is colored. Let me zoom along here. Okay, now I'm coloring his clothes, right? As I'm coloring the clothes, I'm thinking how his clothes fold, where they should fold, all of that, right? And where light's gonna hit them. That's the hardest part because if you fail at understanding the way light works and the way it hits things, there's gonna be a disconnect from your artwork. Something's gonna be off. I've seen guys where they hit like their character with a hard light from one side, but then it's not catching on the other side, or they'll leave this area and then it's hitting over here, and it's like that light makes no sense. Um, that's one of those things where you have to like figure out the way lights work and how many light sources you have. A lot of guys go with the theory there is one light source. Some guys are like, there could be several. I'm one of those guys that goes with there could be several. Because there could be sunlight and it's reflecting off something with color. I used to do photography and do a lot of shoots outside. And if I wanted some kind of color, I would bring, a reflector or something that had a nice bounce to it, a red reflector, things like that. Um, so you'd get like a nice color using sunlight. Um, I am a big fan of using multiple light sources because you get that nice color from underneath. All right, you know what? Let me get to Spider Man. I was coloring him. Spider Man is a very difficult person to color for me. Um, I don't know what it is about reds that are always fighting me, but recently, Marte Garza started coloring Spider Man. Um, I don't know if I think he's colored before, but he was coloring an artist that I love, Pepe Larraz. So they were doing it together, and it was a great study in how to color Spider Man. So that's what I did, because I just studied how to color Spider Man, and I think it's paying off. It really is. Sorry guys, for you guys talking, I mean for you guys watching. I haven't done this in a while. I'm tired. I get pooped out pretty quick as of late, but it has been a while. Probably when this is over, I'm gonna take a nap. Oops. Yeah, also very clumsy. All right. Blah 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 blah. Spider Man's colored. Right. So here's this. Let me see. What I'll show you. Let me show you the Hulk that I was talking about. Nobody look at what I have on here. Where's my Hulk? Here's the Hulk. Hulk and Punisher. All right, here we go. Here's Hulk issue 396, drawn by Dale Young. Man, and this is the way I colored it. I don't have the original on hand, but um, you'll see. Oops, here we go. You'll see with my cuts, they're a lot softer until you get to the face. And the reason why on the Hulk I did all these cuts is because Hulk being so muscular, I'm almost like, well, his face would be buff too, right? Like all these muscles in his face when he makes expressions and whatnot, um he even gets like the muscle lines in his face. And I'll show you when I click off all the lines I do. Right? So like his shoulders have a lot, his forearms have a lot. But it's when you zoom into his face. See, I give him all these cuts here, under his eye, around his face, on his forehead. But I make sure not to do anything that's gonna mess with the line art, right? So the artist gives you everything you need. See what you can do to make the artwork even better, to enhance it, to complement the artwork, right? Also, I did this nice bounce light right here. Green, red, color theory, blah, blah, blah. Same thing with Hulk right here. So, I mean, sorry, the Punisher. My brain's starting to shut down, guys. Um, Punisher, I gave him a little bit of gray. What's, you know, would be kind of a grunge to him. You know, Punisher's not going to be clean shaven. You know, and some artists don't like doing all the stubble. Other ones do. Other ones will use different techniques. I just wanted to give him a little bit of a grungy look to him. Like, even though he shaved, he still got that 5 o'clock shadow because he shaved with a knife. You know. All right, there's that one. Um, as far as like this hand right here, I did a color hold. And if anybody who doesn't know what a color hold is when you color the inks, right? So as you'll see, if I click on the old inks, this is what the inks look like. All black, right? The color, the character is cool. He's supposed to look like ice, right? And this is what it it looked like. But when you do a color hold, it's coloring the inks, right? So by doing that, I made him look a little cooler, look like he was made of ice. Um, yeah, it's just a cool technique to use. Again, all of these were done using the two brushes, right? The one set to normal and the one set to hard light. And I'll explain this here in a little bit because I keep saying what they were set to, but I'll show you guys in 1 minute before I get off on how I do it. All right, so let me switch over because I just realized I had stuff that I probably shouldn't be showing while I do that. All right, let's see. So I'm going to show you how we use the brushes. Let me open this piece here because it's not nothing you can't see. Right. All right. So let's see. Oh, hey, John. How's it going? Oh, thank you. Thank you. Um, yeah. Um, Getting better. And I've just been coloring and I miss talking to people. So I'm just waiting for some swelling to go down. My fat face. But anyways, let's I'm gonna show you guys here. So here's the one I've been doing, and these are my warm-ups. Wait, it's a G. Scott Campbell Black Widow. Black Widow. Somebody help me out with the name of this character. Black Cat? Black Cat. Yeah. So again, it's all set up the same way. I have it color coded. I have the layers. Now this one, I didn't do the flats. I got this one off of DeviantArt, where they have flats for colors. Yeah, Black Cat. All right, thanks, John. I got this one off of DeviantArt. This one's pretty good. If you want to get, if you're a colorist and you're wanting to practice, DeviantArt is a great way to get pages that are flat. Just be careful when you get them, because sometimes some of these will have gaps. This one doesn't. Oh, there you go. See that little gap right there? That's because when they flatted it, they didn't have it set to, I'm sorry, they didn't have the anti-alias off, which is what you want when you're a flatter. Because if you're a colorist, I mean, if you're a flatter and you give this to your colorist, you're probably going to get fired, because they don't want any of this, right? Because they want to be able to grab the character all the way up to the edge of whatever they're standing against, whether it's another character. This right here wouldn't fly. So those of you that want to be flatters, or those of you that reach out to colorists, make sure you're not doing this. They're not going to want it. They want those edges with the anti-alias off, right? If you leave them on, you're probably not going to be working for long. That's just for me learning the hard way. All right, so there's the inks, there's the flats. Again, there's my shadow layers that, like I went over earlier. I started to color her costume. Here's a coloring of her face, and then her highlight. There's her, you can see her highlight turning off and on. This is what I was talking about earlier about putting a little bit of a glow on the face, especially women, because it softens their face. It gives them this nice glow. You see, if I click it off, it looks good. She looks fantastic. But you turn it on, you give them this nice soft glow that they're almost glistening. I learned that from a makeup artist that I used to work with when I did photography. They were constantly talking about glow, and you want that glow unless, you know, certain situations, you know, where you don't want it. But most of the time when you're doing the photography we were doing, you want them having that nice glowy skin. Now, again, if you're doing like a Harley Quinn or character that's, there's a female Mr. Freeze. Brain's not working. Those ones you'll keep cool, but you can still do that glow. You'll just have to use a cool color, which doesn't work. Yeah, gorgeous tones and glow. Oh, thank you, John. So let me show you real quick before I go, before I let you guys go. So I have my brush. Let me get Spider-Man here. Let me get his red. I might not keep it, but this is just to show you how this works. And this is what I do when I'm getting the color. Remember when I said earlier, if you're watching earlier, I get their flats and I have them as their base tones, right? So all these tones on her face is my base tones, is what I'm going to use when I start coloring. And I'm going to show you why I do it this way. So I go in and I grab the red off of Spider-Man's face. And here's my shadow of Spider-Man, my shadow area. And I've copied and locked, this is what I have for Spider-Man. This layer is locked. I locked the transparencies. So if I was to color, it's only going to affect Spider-Man. Doesn't matter how, where I go or how reckless I am. It's only going to go in his red. It's not going to affect Black Cat at all or his blues, things like that. All right, so first things first, I'm going to get my lasso set to 0 pixels with the alias on. And with my normal brush, this is normal, I'm going to just hit his face really lightly with that red base tone, right? Why is that? Because I'm probably going to go in to my highlight area and let that light in the back affect his face. I'm not doing that right now because that looks like poop. But let's get back to that red of Spider-Man. There's my layer. So I have my red. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pick this color like right up here. It's almost like a pinkish, but I'm also going to move my red, give it a little bit more orange. Now, this is where I get my hard light brush, right? I'm going to make it bigger because I want a nice fade off of it, right? I want that soft brush to work for me. So I'm going to get my lasso set to 0 pixels. I'm going to select this area. And doing this technique, it's all about building on top of it, building on top. So you don't want to do this. Oh, that's the color. No. I want to hit Spider-Man's face little by little. So I make this selection, right? Now with my brush, I'm just going to hit it like that. That's it. Just that one. All right. Now let's go in. I'm going to make another selection a little tighter. I'm going to hit it with the edge of my brush. Right? And now I'm going to get like as if his mask has the ridges of his face on it, right? So if I was wearing a mask, it would still have the shape of my face underneath it, right? So now I'm going to just like hit that area. Woo! I haven't talked this much in a while. I'm going to just hit it a little bit. And there's something that a lot of colors have been doing. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I've been doing it because when I send my submissions to Marvel, stuff like that, I want them to see that I'm capable of coloring like some of the guys they have or better. I've seen Marte Garza do this, who is my coloring idol. They'll just highlight some of those webs on his head, which is weird because I always thought it was just cloth instead of like making it look like they were each individual pieces. But I get it. And then for the bottom of his face too, I'm gonna hit. What I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna just hit like half of his face because I'm gonna want this area over here to be blocked by Black Cat, right? So I'm gonna just the soft brush hit right there and see how I left it. There's another thing too. Don't work like this, even if you work digital. Unless you got these tiny little details you want to do, like sometimes I grab areas of his mask like this and being up close. It's just easier and faster to do. You know, it peeks through a little. But don't work like this because then you're going to start coming in here. You're going to get into these habits that I used to have. I'm like, ooh, look at this that I'm doing. Okay, brush. Let you come back to work now. There you go. And you start doing this, right? And then you zoom out and you're just like, I did all of that. You can't even see it. Get a reasonable distance, you know, from it to do your cuts or whatever you're doing, and then zoom out and see what it looks like. zoom into about, let's say about right here. Do your cuts. Or you don't have to do cuts, just so you know. If you want to use a brush to do this, this is just the way I do it. There's a million ways to do it. This is the way I do it. I like using the brushes. Because it's just how I learned, and old dog, you know. Um, that's why if you see my process videos, they'll look like they're all doing this constantly because I'm constantly doing that. I'm making these cuts. No, that one's ugly. I'm gonna make a cut here, here. I'm gonna make a bigger one here because I want that shadow of her, kind of. There we go. Let me bring up that. There we go. Right. Do I already have my I don't yet. Oh, I do actually. So no, I don't. That's my highlight. I have to wait. Oh, there it is. So this is my shadow bounce color. That's what I call it. I don't know the term for it, but you don't want to leave your shadows flat, right? And these ones I do with a normal brush. So what I'll do is I'll select this area so it looks like there's shadow, but there's a little something on it just so it's not the solid purple. It's just something for your eye to catch. It doesn't let the area look flat. And as for Spider-Man's, I'm almost like he needs something a little lighter on his face. So let's do this here. You want, for certain pictures, you want to draw the attention to the face. So you want the lightest areas on the character around their face. Now, this doesn't count for all artwork. If you're doing something and let's say there's a missile being shot at your character, you're not going to do his face in the lightest color because your eye naturally goes to the lightest color. If you're talking about values, if the top value is white and the lowest is black and you're closer to white around the face area, your eyes automatically going to be drawn to that area. That's why when you see artists that will do maybe like a character with armor, and this character has the same values all across his armor, you're doing this. Sometimes you're looking for the face, right? Especially if you have a character who's, let's say they have gold armor, right? And now you're like, well, where's their face? They have like white eyes or whatever, but you don't want the reader to be doing this. Where is this? You want to have the power to draw their eye, right? That's the important job of a colorist. Your job to make these pretty lines even prettier, right? So if I was to do, okay, so the main focus in this is Black Cat, second is Spider-Man. But if I was to go into Spider-Man and do this, right? When you see this drawing, now you're coming over here. When I want you over here, the reason why you could see the framing around her face, right? There's white here. There's white here. Right? Let's see. Let me open this up here. Let's see. You could see I left this part white, right? This is white. This is white. Even though she has white hair, right? But I could have done it all white, like just all over. But then, this is underneath. I lift this part really white, right, as compared to the other ones, you'll notice this white of her suit is a lot whiter than this on her arms because I was drawing your eye towards her face. And you'll see that I use the lighting to do the same thing, right? So you'll see her eyes, right? That's with the lighting off, lighting on. I put a glow on top of them so that way you're drawn to their face, right? There's just something about their face that's, oof, I gotta get rid of that color on Spider-Man. That's awful. I'll color that later. Let's get rid of that. All right, guys. I think that's going to be it. I'm tired. Oof. How did I do this more often? I'm exhausted. Okay. As always, please like, follow, subscribe, all the things. I'm so tired, you guys. This took a lot more out of me than I thought it was gonna be. Please go like and subscribe, share. Facebook is doing this thing now where after a little bit, things get deleted after 30 days. So go please like my YouTube page. Please share these out. I don't know how many more I'm gonna be doing. All of a sudden, I got super busy, and it's a great thing. For those who don't know, I completed my first sequential drawings. Now I'm working on my first sequential colors for a book. So, coming at a difficult time, but I'm looking to push through and keep doing this. And hopefully I can do these like at least once a month if I'm not super busy. But until next time, guys, please take care. Oh, as always, I share my artwork. Yeah, that's right. For free. Free. I don't think anybody else does this out there. Sorry, guys. I just cut myself. I don't even know how I did it. I'm bleeding over here. I share my artwork. Yeah, so if I draw something that's not going to be used for somebody's book, like I just did a Joker Batman. If you've seen it on my pages, I just drew Joker Batman. If you're an inker and you want to ink over my artwork, I will send you my artwork as a blue line. I will share that with you and just give it to you. All that I ask is you tag me in it and let people know that I shared it with you. Any of my artwork, if you want to color it, I will send it to you as a flat. That way you already have it ready to color. If you want to practice what I do, just let me know. I'll leave my shadow layers and everything on there, and you can try to work from there. I also share my brushes, the 2 brushes that I use. I share those as well. My soft brush and that hard one. There's really not much to them. The one that comes with Photoshop is surprisingly close. I've used it one time and I couldn't tell the difference. So I'm gonna let you guys go. I don't know how I cut my elbow, but I did, and I'm bleeding. Until next time, thank you guys for watching. Also, thank you guys for the support and the reaching out and seeing how I was doing. It was so great to see you guys. Hearing from you at a difficult time. This show is not a political show, right? I don't get into that. This show's about fun, but things are going right now. I live out in the California area. It's scary, and hearing from you guys and the words of support and confidence and liking my artwork, it's such a great boost, and I'm so appreciative to all of you that follow me, that like my artwork. Um, yeah, I can't thank you guys enough. All right, guys, I'm rambling now. I'll talk to you guys soon. Have a great one, and I'll see you hopefully in 2, 3 weeks. Let's see how I'm feeling. All right, bye, everybody.